In today's video we're working on 1.6 TDI and we are going to be going through the steps needed to replace the alternator, which is hidden down here at the top of the engine. It's very hard to access from the top of the engine. You could start taking all these coolant pipes off etc. to get to it, but this is an aircon pipe which I don't want to remove, so it's going to be easier if we come at it from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is lift the car up and we will take off this driver's side wheel and then take off the arch liner inside here, and we should have access from there getting in this side. So now that we have access to this wheel arch, we just need to go around and loosen all of these torque bolts along it. I think we'll need to take off this bottom section here, so we'll get off first, see what our visibility like. I don't think we'll need to take off this top section here. And there's a few of the same T25 bolts underneath. Okay, now we have access to the side of the engine that we need, and the first thing we're going to do is take off this auxiliary belt here first. It's going to be hard to fill in this from underneath the car, but this is your belt here, running around your aircon pump, crank, tensioner, and then if I can get this to focus, up to your alternator. So to loosen this, there we go. We just need about a 16mm on this, and we can turn it counterclockwise to take the tensioner off. Now there is a locating pin that'll go up here that'll hold it in its untensioned position. So we can do that first just to get the belt off, but we're going to have to take the bolts off that tensioner to get access to some of the bolts that hold on the alternator. So we'll hold it open first to get the belt off, take the two bolts off that we can, and then we'll let that tensioner loose again and take off the final bolt. Once that's off, we're actually going to take off this aircon pump as well, and we're not going to remove any of the pipes for it. We're just going to unbolt it, let it dangle down, and that should give us full access to the bolts we need to remove the alternator. But we'll do it bit by bit, and we'll get rid of this tensioner and belt first. You can see just where I have that pin in that lock and tab to hold that in place. This pin is from a time belt kit, but really you can use a drill bit or anything, you can get through there no problem. So now it's these multi-spline bits. I think it's actually my gloves that are setting the camera off to go darker. I'll take them off, but these multi-spline bits, there's three of them that hold on this tensioner. We're just going to take them off now to get this tensioner off. First one out, there's one up top here and there's another one back here. So we'll get the one up top out next, and then we'll take this tensioner off and get this last one. Okay, with the tensioner off that, we'll get at this top bolt now. So it's actually just the two bolts that hold that on. And with it off, you can see a lot better where them two bolts sit, just on that bracket. And they are both M10 spline bits. Okay, so now we'll start to loosen this air conditioning pump. There's two bolts at the front to start with. I'm not sure what size they are, they feel quite small, maybe 13mm. I'll let you know in a minute, but we'll get these two bolts off first. So this next part, I'm not going to be able to film, but I'll take this electrical connector off, and then there is another bolt just up behind it here we're also going to take off again another 13mm. And then we're not taking this off completely because it's still going to be connected to all the pipes. We're just going to let this whole pump drop down towards us so we can have room to get at the alternator. So I'm just going to cut this now and I'm going to come back when that last bolt is removed. So as you can see, we have this air column pump off, just that final third bolt out. All the bolts are the same length, so don't worry about keeping track of which one goes where. We just have this hanging by the pipes up here. Now if you want, you can get your whole system degassed and take this off fully and then bring it back and get it regassed, but I don't want to do that. So we're just having it hanging from these two pipes here. And there's no real pressure in this apart from the weight of the pump, so these pipes are more than capable of carrying that weight. But now with everything out, we actually have access to our alternator up here. And we have two bolts to take out to begin with. One at the bottom here and another at the top, just up here. And again, these are both, what's this sticker in the way? These are both 13mm bolts. And then we're going to have different connections at the rear side of it we're going to have to take off. But I'm going to loosen this first, slide it out, maybe have to pry it out this way, and then we can get access to all the connections at the rear side of it. There's going to be one electrical connection that'll pop off, and then there will be some bolted to it that we'll have to unscrew the nuts for. So I'm just going to take these two bolts out really quick, and then we'll start to move this alternator out. And there is one very long bolt out. And two very long bolts out. With both bolts out, we're now going to start prying from underneath the alternator or the top of the alternator to get it out. It is going to be on quite tight, so it's going to take a bit of force to wobble it back and forth like this to get that out, and I'll explain why that is. It's going to be easier when we have it off. But we're just going to pry it off out of its mounting position, and then we can take off the connectors at the rear side of it and fully take it off the car. In my case, the top is loose but the bottom is very tight. Couldn't find it. Back with a bigger flathead. Okay. Almost. Okay, and we are loose. This is probably a good time to say it again and make sure your battery is disconnected, because the positive lead in the back of this starts hitting any of the metal on the engine or the mounts or the body, you're going to start to see a lot of sparks. It'll drain your battery. So it's just starting to get dark here, but if we look in from the top of the engine, we should be able to see, if I can get this to focus. There is the electrical connector, and then the second wire that's running down the back. If I can get that to focus. Just about to see it in the bottom there. It'll be easier to show you on this new alternator. So what we're going to do is take off this electrical connector right here on the left. Then there's going to be a plastic cover that's covering the nut here for the electrical connector. And on this stalk at the back, there's going to be another nut that's just holding a bracket for these two wires. We're going to take that off at the top of this, and it's just getting dark here, so I'll probably just take this out and then continue it in the morning. But we'll take them connectors off, and then the alternator will be free to drop out from the bottom of the engine. Okay, so it's actually easier if you just point the alternator down with the pulley facing downwards. That way we have good access to the top here to get them connectors off. So we'll just get them off, and then we will look at the old and new alternator. Okay, so all the connectors are out, so this should lift right out. Perfect. Here we can just see this was the 8mm clip, and this is that other wire I'm talking about. So just look at this wire as well, make sure it's clean on both sides. Sorry, this wire, and if it's not, just clean it with whatever you have. Scratch right a bit of sandpaper, just to make sure you get a good connection. As you can see, there's some corrosion on this one, so we'll get that cleaned off. Now the alternator out, we can see the reason these get so tight is these pins up here actually can slide back and forth. What happens is you pull the bolt through, it catches the threads in here, as it tightens, it clamps this in, and that clamps on the bracket in the car to hold this perfectly in place. And that happens in both the top and the bottom mount. So check your new alternator, make sure this comes flush. If you ordered a second hand one or refurbished, sometimes these pins are left exactly where they are and you need to press this back. And there's a few different ways you can do it. You can kind of get a vise clamped here and here at a bit of an angle, clamp it in, or you can put this bolt through with a nut here and start tightening it this way, which will push the bolt this way. Or what I usually do is just engage the threads and give this a few taps with the hammer. Just kind of gentle taps, just a lot of them, to push this through to make sure you don't actually snap this bracket. That's probably the laziest way, but it's the easiest way and it's always worked for me. Thankfully with this new one, it's already come in place. So this will go on, slide into place a lot easier, and then it'll just take a bit more to tighten it to pull this through. So again, it's hard to film it, but I'm just going to put this back in, get all the connectors back on it, and then we'll put these two bolts to the bracket back into this new one. We have access to the connectors at the top, and we can get everything put in place. The replacement bolt that came in my alternator is actually a 12mm and not a 13mm. Okay, so all of our connectors are in. One thing that's very important not to forget is this plastic cover for the nut. Okay, everything's on. We'll now just twist this up and put it in place. And we'll get our two bolts ready to put in. Feed this top one in first, just to hold it. Just putting that in, a couple of grooves, or a couple of threads at the minute. Now I'll go get the bottom one to put in. Give these a quick tighten and then we'll torque them. And now I can feel the torque just changing on this, so I know I'm pulling that spacer closer. And they're just starting to get tight. I'll do the same at the top. So it's starting to get tight now. Let's pull that spacer in again. And that is our new alternator in. Now, check the specs, the torque spec for these, just have Google on your own car. Mine are M8 and these were 23 Newton meters or 17 foot-pound, but they can be M10 depending on your engine, etc. So check these specs yourself. Mine are 23, doesn't mean yours will be, but just have a Google, you'll find it easy enough. Now the only thing left to do is get this tensioner idle back on, and then also put our cum pump back up into place. And after that's done, we'll get the belt back on, get the guard on, and this will be finished. For the tensioner, we're going to put it in, tighten up this top one first, and then we're going to have to actually set the tensioner to get access to this bottom one. Same as taking it off, just the reversed order. So we'll get this up, put the top one in first, use our 16mm spanner to bring this upwards, and then we get access to that bolt at the back. And this is back to our M10 multi-spline. Well, I think they're actually called triple squares in the US, but I've always known them as multi-spline bits. And these I'm just tightening. You can look up the torque if you want and torque the spec, but I'm not. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so next thing is your com pump at the bottom. So if you remember, this is held on with 3 13mm bolts, and there's a leather connector at the back to plug in as well. First 2 bolts are right at the front here, these 2 front brackets, and then there's one the other side down the back here. Can't see it at the minute, but I'll show you when it's back in place. Just double check as you press this up, you know, you're not crushing any wires or any pipes, and everything's going where it should go. Everything looks okay here, so there's dowel pins that'll hold that in place for you. So just get that bit of grass off that, get the bolts in and get them hand tight. Okay, so our 3 bolts are in. Just need to put the leather connector back on, and that is our AC pump back in. Last thing I have to do is just route the belt around all these pulleys. So now is a good time to actually replace your belt, but mine's only maybe a month old, so I'm going to reuse it. If it's an aftermarket one, it might have a direction arrow on it showing which direction needs to rotate. If not, if it just has writing on it like mine here, you just need to make sure that when you're looking at the engine, you can read the writing that's correctly around. So this would be correct, and this way would be incorrect. To release it, we're just going to turn this anti-clockwise, as if we're trying to loosen that bolt, give this a wiggle out, and then let this pop down. But before that, just make sure that the belt is sitting in the correct grooves of all the pulleys first, which ours is. So we can go ahead and loosen this. I'm at a really awkward angle here because the camera is where my head should be. And with that pin out, we let the tension on back to the belt. Double check everything's sitting in the groove correctly. That's perfect. That's perfect. Tensioner looks like it's sitting in the right place, and the alternator is sitting perfect. So before we put the wheel and the alternator back on, I'm actually going to start this car and just measure the voltage, because this alternator wasn't charging at all before. So just double checking that everything's working correctly before we finish up here. With the engine running, we can see we're up at 14.6, 14.7 volts, which is normal for a running engine. Before, this was sitting at 12.1 and it's slowly dropping because the battery wasn't getting charged at all. So, good to see that that's fixed it. Next thing to do, we'll turn the car back off here, we'll just get the alternator back on, double check everything, pull the wire off the battery. We'll double check that that belt is sitting correctly, and then that'll be us done. Okay, I've just double checked all the belts and everything is still sitting perfect. So we'll get the alternator on and put the wheel on, and that's everything done. If you find this useful, do me a favour and just like the video. If you can, subscribe to the channel, there'll be more videos like this coming. And if you've got any advice of a better way to do it, leave a comment down below. If not, thanks very much for watching, and we'll just really quickly get this arch back on and get the wheel back on and get this car back on the ground.